Welcome back to Maximum News, ladies and gentlemen. My ear is hurting like hell. And apparently Sybs was a couple weeks ago, so I'm thinking he transmitted it to me somehow. Don't ask me about the logic behind that, but, you know, when you're in pain, yeah, all types of logic tend to go out the window. But anyways.
Blame everybody else.
Yes, blame everybody else. That's what is in human nature to do. But how you doing, guys? Welcome back. We're here to talk about games, though, not about ear infections. I mean, if that is what you're here for, I would recommend seeing a medical professional of some sort. And sorry about the motorcycle outside if you can hear that. But yeah, we got a whole bunch of stuff to talk about. And I'm, of course, joined as always by Sybsidian of the Triple S League. How you doing, dude?
It has been a long couple past weeks, but things are finally starting to, calm down a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Today probably wasn't, the best example of that, but the trajectory is what counts, because this guy's been walking around all over the place in Albertan heat. All right, let's talk about different type of punishment. The type of punishment that people tend to enjoy. I'm talking about Elden Ring. We could have gone down a very, very not safe for work direction there. But I'm talking about Elden Ring. Syb, that Elden Ring DLC has come out. We talked a little bit about it last week on the podcast. I just started to play it right before we recorded. And in that time, I have completed the DLC. And it was a serious effort, but, let me put it to you in perspective. I normally don't have a lot of time. I have to budget my time in the best way possible so that I can attend to all my priorities. And that includes, spending time with my wife, getting my work done, and playing the games that I need to for my channel because it is my full-time job. But because it was the Elden Ring DLC, I managed to balance a lot of time between playing the DLC and doing my work. And my wife was very, very patient about that because she was looking forward to the DLC as well. So it came out on Thursday for the PC, and I played it all the way up until Monday when I completed it. And I'm going to give you my review about it, and then we're going to talk a little bit about other people's reviews for it. Syb, I think it's pretty safe to say that From Software is probably my favorite game development studio in the world right now. It's because probably more than any other studio in the business right now, they have consistently given us 9 out of 10 and 10 out of 10 games. Everything from Demon's Souls all the way up to now. Still need to play Armored Core, but I heard that Armored Core 6 is pretty dope in its own right. And one thing that, in particular, From Software is known for, outside of their awesome games, is their awesome DLCs. Now, that one really crappy Dark Souls 2 DLC notwithstanding, the one everybody knows which one I'm talking about, it's the one that's in the snow. All the other ones have been amazing. Some of the greatest DLCs in the history of gaming. A lot of people tend to say that their favorite DLC is the Bloodborne one, the Old Hunters DLC. That's a close second for me. My personal favorite is the Ring City from Dark Souls 3. I just felt that one had the most content and the most intriguing stuff in terms of lore. But it's, they're all relatively close together in quality for me personally. So where does Elden Ring's DLC rank for me? Syb, I think it surpasses all the other DLCs by far. In terms of not just quality, but in terms of quantity. Look, the Ring City, if I recall correctly, had about 8 to 10 hours of content, roughly, and it was still amazing. Elden Ring's Shadow of the Erdtree DLC is at least 3, maybe even 4 times that. And all of it is consistently at an apex of quality. Everything, like the boss design, the level design, it's, it's funny. Miyazaki, when he was trying to explain to people the size of the map, he said that it was about the size of, I think, what did he say? Limgrave and Caelid put together, which is about 30 to 40% of the original Elden Ring map. What he was talking about when he said that, he was talking about the width of the map. He wasn't talking about the height or the depth. Let me tell you, Syb, this DLC has, it feels like, roughly the same amount of content as the base game. Not as much, but close. And again, like I said, it's all really juicy content. And because everything is so packed in on top of each other, you are compelled to explore every nook and cranny. Excuse me, every nook and cranny of the world around you just to try and find secrets. Oftentimes you don't find a whole lot of stuff, but oftentimes you do, and it, just like with it is in the base game, it's always worthwhile stuff that you're finding, stuff that can contribute to your build, stuff that you can find that contributes to your understanding of the lore. Great diversity of different biomes. There's like, hellscapes, kind of like Caelid. What was the one big hellscape? Well, maybe I don't want to say, but I'll just sort of describe. It's like there's these gorgeous flower-filled locales, these big open vistas and fields of grain, and then like I said, hellish landscapes. It's so diverse, in a way that's the base game's locales are equally diverse. Obviously, the one thing that a lot of people were really looking forward to with the DLC is the vast number of different weapons and weapon arts that are going to be available to you. They're all wonderful. My wife was absolutely going gaga about the perfumer weapons, and they are pretty cool, especially if you know how to use them. They can lead to some pretty broken builds. And even for the weapons that are there that were already pre-existing weapon categories, like the Uchigatana, and which is the ones that I like to use, the one-handed swords. They have a couple of those in this game, and they're awesome. And I wish I could talk about them, but that would be spoilery. And of course, when it comes to video games, anybody that knows my personal channel, I'm all about lore and worlds and narratives. This game, while in typical From Software fashion, they tend to introduce a lot more questions than they do provide answers. The DLC actually provides a pretty decent number of answers to pre-existing lore questions. Do I want to say which ones? Okay, maybe not like any specific ones, but I'll say like stuff that I think a lot of people expected. You're going to learn a lot more about Miquella. You're going to learn more about, from the trailer, the character Mesmer and his relation to Miquella and his potential relation to Queen Marika, who's sort of the lead bad in the main game. That's all stuff you could have gleaned from the trailer, so it's not spoilery. But there's also other stuff that people have been speculating about for a long time that weren't really given explicit answers, but they were confirmed in the DLC. And, some new mysteries that I may or may not have a couple theories to share about on my channel, and like maybe one or two of my own lore videos. Maybe you should go and check out my personal channel by subscribing to it by clicking on it in the description box below. So yeah, everything is just wonderful. It's bigger than any DLC that came prior by far, and the quality is on par, if not surpassing, what From Software has given us in the past.
Mm-hmm.
My anticipation for this was really high, Syb. Like, I didn't have it on my top 10 of the year list, partially because we didn't know when it was exactly coming out, but also partially because it's a DLC. But after having played it, it surpassed my expectations, and I had an absolute blast with it, and I cannot wait to go through it several more times in the coming years. So, I want to know what you guys thought of the DLC. Have you managed to play it? Have you managed to complete it? What are your theories about what the hell's going on with the story? I would like to know. Syb, did my review give you any desire to go and pick up the game?
So I am for the next little while. I do not have a PC near me. I have not a very strong laptop. I can run Fallout Shelter, and a handful of other older games, from the 90s, sure. And that's about it. Yeah. So, no, I haven't been able to play basically anything, but I will tell you that I've actually been really, really watching a whole bunch of people play through it. I watched Asmongold play through it. I've watched a couple other streamers from OTK play through it, and I gotta say that it certainly looked a lot harder, as a generality.
I'm gonna get to that. Yeah.
Yeah. So and of course all the complaints and stuff like that, but it looked really good. It looked, fantastic. It's that experience of like completing pillars is the only way I could really think to put it. It's like you're battling these very difficult fights. You're trying to like do things that are very, very hard, and then once you finish it, once you pass it, it's like this great like release of like, you know, pent up energy and whatnot, and you're finally just like, yes, I did it. I can now walk free with my head held high, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I had a couple moments like that. There's actually one boss relatively early on, which is weird because like one of the earlier bosses was the one that I by far had the most trouble with, and when I beat her, I was like, "You." I can't swear, but I literally exclaimed it. And my wife was like, "What the hell? Oh, he must have beaten the boss." So she was totally understanding because she's played a lot of Souls type games in her life as well. Yeah.
So I think that like the reaction has been really, really good from a lot of places. So I think that's kind of exciting.
Right. Well, from a lot of places, but not from all places. Now this is where we transition into the other side of the discussion. Yeah, if you look at people playing the game who typically enjoy Souls games and are known for enjoying Souls games, yes, they are across the board really enjoying the games as well. However, you did pick up on the difficulty. I don't know if you knew this, but there was a little bit of a controversy over the past few days regarding people on Steam playing the PC version of the game bombarding the DLC with negative reviews. Now, there are two reasons for that. One is, I think, a legitimate reason, and the other is a not so legitimate reason. As for the legitimate reason, there have been performance issues with the game. Now, I don't, as much as I praise From Software, as much as they are my favorite game development studio, they do have some improvements that they have to make when it comes to the visual fidelity of their games and being able to maintain consistent frame rates. Because let me tell you, Side, I've been playing this game on the PC. I have a pretty decent system, and I don't have all my graphics settings maxed out or anything. There were a number of times where I would be out in the open and the game would constantly go down from 60 frames per second to 30 frames per second, and even below that, which for a game that isn't as graphically complex as a great number of other games on the market is absolutely unacceptable. Worse yet, it's even worse with the addition of the DLC. And it was bad with the base game, but it's even worse with the DLC. So people have been complaining about that. And for me personally, when it comes to frame rate drops, I'm not as bothered by it as a lot of people are, but it clearly bothers enough people to the point where it's like, well, I'm going to leave a negative review, and it hinders my ability to enjoy a smooth experience. So, fair enough. Should it basically make you want to leave a negative review just for that reason alone? No, but I think it's something that's definitely worthy of criticism. And, combine that if you don't enjoy the game on its own, that's subjective and that's totally fair. So, that's the one reason that I believe to be totally legit, totally appropriate. What's the other criticism? It's too hard. And you know what? Is it hard? Yes, it's pretty damned hard. I would say like a lot of the bosses in this game are like on par with Orphan of Kos from Bloodborne, and people know like what that means when you talk about difficulty. Here's the thing though. I got through all the bosses, and I don't necessarily have the temperament to be able to play a game like Elden Ring for too long because it can get to me. That happens with people that have autism. But you know what? I was able to get through it because, well, I could have spent more time with the bosses, but I was trying to get through the game pretty quickly because I wanted to get to the lore, because that's why I predominantly play these games, even though they have great combat. And I got to the lore very quickly because I used the performance enhancer items called the Scadu Tree Fragments, which is the DLC's leveling system. The complaints from what I understand, are coming from the people that expected the bosses to be fought much like they are in the base game. And because people can't, be able to beat them with their level 1, no upgrades, no armor, just
roly poly oly.
Yes, roly poly oly. Yes, exactly. Because they can't do that because the bosses in the DLC are too hard to be able to do it with that. It suddenly makes them feel emasculated, and they're like, "Oh no, it's too hard." When they could easily just use the scattered tree fragments, just upgrade their stats, and maybe use summons. But to do that, it's like, no, that's for weaklings, and I get my entire sense of positive identity from the fact that I'm good at Souls games type of people. Those are the people that are leaving those negative reviews.
So the people who play through, like I saw a video on a guy who played through all the Souls games without getting hit once.
Yeah.
And and people are like, oh yeah, I could totally do that if I had the time. But like the reason I haven't is because I'm really busy with my Danish boot collection and my and all the responsibilities that come with it. But I could totally do it. It's just cake, man. It's like stuff like that. People like that.
Yeah.
I'm not calling anybody out.
No,
I'm
of
just
course not.
stating that sometimes ego is a really weird thing when it comes to certain video games, and I think this is one of them, which is frankly one of the reasons why I'm not as into it as I am in other games.
Yeah, community can really destroy people's love for certain games. Yeah, that's part of the reason why I stopped playing Overwatch. Even though that game has a lot of problems, one of the primary reasons was just the community. Anytime you weren't at your absolute apex best, even when you're just playing casually, people will just spam in the chat how crap you are, and just didn't want to have to deal with it anymore. I never got that with any other shooter game in my life. Yeah. So, yeah, the Soulsborne community can be that way sometimes, and they were letting their voices be known. But again, it's so weird. It doesn't really feel substantially it is harder, but it doesn't feel substantially harder than past DLCs where the game does tend to be harder. It feels on par with the difficulty of the latter bosses and the old hunters for Bloodborne. It does feel on par with Dark Eater Midir and the Nameless King from Dark Souls 3. And a lot of the bosses from Sekiro, that's for sure, because that's the hardest game ever made, arguably. So, I don't know. It's just people...
I don't know. I gotta say, when it comes to hard games,
oh, here we
some
go.
some people were just live in the darkness. Others are bored in the darkness. And I gotta say that the darkness that the avoid the noid. Yes, avoid the noid.
I don't even want to know. Okay. Okay. Yeah, there are a lot of hard games. But yeah, Elden Ring, the DLC, if you just seek out, if you explore the map and don't go right to the main bosses and collect the scattered tree fragments and are okay with using the summons, you can have a good time and not have too frustrating a time. I wouldn't recommend it as your first Soulsborne experience. Anybody who asks me, which one should I start with? I always say either Dark Souls or Demon Souls. Those are easily the easiest ones to get into and the most fun. Well, maybe not the most fun. That as you get better, the most fun games tend to be the ones that are a little bit more complicated. But yeah. So I'm sure there are probably other reasons why people are leaving negative reviews that I missed, but those are the reasons that really stood out to me. If I missed any, please let me know in the comment section below, guys. All right, moving on to other good gaming news. We've been seeing a lot of remasters lately, a lot of good remasters. Metroid Prime recently came out, the remaster for that one. I really want to play it because I never got into Metroid Prime as a kid. I played the first one when it was available at Blockbuster back when that was a thing, and I enjoyed it. but for whatever reason, I never picked it back up. And now that it's remastered on the Nintendo Switch, I should probably check it out. So that one came out, and there were a couple other ones. Oh yeah, Beyond Good and Evil came out. Oh yeah, that was something I forgot to mention. Yeah, the Beyond Good and Evil remaster came out, and it was announced via the Beyond Good and Evil 2 Twitter account. And along with that, they said, yeah, the game's still in development. Yeah, just like Half-Life Episode 3 is still in development. Am I right? Anyway, but we recently got an announcement for a new remaster, Syb. And it's Dead Rising. The original Dead Rising that released back on the Xbox 360 and, was released to subsequent platforms is getting a full graphical overhaul. And they announced, Capcom confirmed this via a 40-second teaser video on their Twitter account. Don't really get to see much. You see, like, the overview of Willamette and the town outside of Willamette, and then you get to see Frank's character model. But that's about it. I have some thoughts on this, but before I do, before I give them, Syb, have you ever played Dead Rising or any of the Dead Rising games?
No, I don't think so.
No. They're good. They're mindless fun, and they have a kooky charm to it. Any sort of like moral messaging or political messaging is really on the nose very often, but in a good way, in a comedic way.
I recognize the memes from it because there's a lot, but yeah, Frank and the memes, yep.
Yeah. And, personally, I would say that the first one is probably my favorite. 2 and 3 are really damned good, but it's just the first one has this weird, irreplaceable charm. And then 4 sort of killed the franchise, from what I understand. I never played it. Apparently, they really messed Frank up. But yeah, it's really good, really solid. Just kill a whole bunch of zombies, collecting a whole bunch of stuff around the map. It's just that good old, type of old school game. What I want to know with this remaster is what they're going to do, if anything, beyond graphics. Because Syb, as much as I love the first Dead Rising, that game has some of the worst AI in the history of gaming. And I'm talking like this is worse than like some of the worst AI in some of the Halo games. What are some bad games with AI? And I can do a compare. Can you think of any bad games with bad AI off the top of your head, Syb?
Well, I mean, there's always like Alien Colonial.
Yeah. Colonial
apparently
Marines.
Colonial Marines, that's the one. So apparently that boiled down to just a scripting error. There was literally just there was a typo in one of the scripts.
Yeah.
And it was put in there like in the last moments before they uploaded it for release. And it's like, that sucks when that happens, because you go over that how many times to make sure everything's working right, and then that happens. But there were other bugs and like issues and whatnot.
Yeah, I would say, dude, I know exactly what you're talking about. I've seen a lot of like what the hell went wrong with Colonial Marines documentaries and videos on YouTube. Let me tell you this. It's not as bad, but it's close when it comes to Dead Rising. Because let me tell you, when it comes to trying to escort people around the mall and then just getting caught on the most random stuff, like getting caught on a window, like when you're just trying to get them back to safety, or them just running into a zombie when they absolutely for no reason should have, even though what the path is clear. It's nuts. It's just so much of the game surrounding it is so good that you're able to ignore those moments of peak frustration. I want to know if Capcom is going to use the AI systems that they developed for the other games to fix that. If not, I'm not buying it. I want them to fix that. Otherwise, I can just stick with the original game. Updated graphics and gore effects are not going to do it for me. But if they do, if they add in other quality of life changes, maybe if they add in like different weapon combos that they added in with the future games that can make annihilating the zombies a lot more fun, then I'll get it. But if it's just like a Halo type of, go back to Halo, a Halo type of graphical upgrade where it's just the graphics and nothing else, and you could switch between them, I'm good. But I'm sure there'll be Dead Rising fans, so they're happy with that. Yeah, so that's cool. We still don't have a release date. They just announced it, but yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing more, and hopefully they'll do more than just the bare minimum. And I'd like to think that they will, because it is Capcom, and they've been kicking ass lately. Sybe, any thoughts on this extra before we move on?
No, I mean, it's like, it's about time. There's about 1,000 games that I'd like them to, somebody to remaster and bring back from ages past.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm talking like old games, like basically, and we sort of got it with Baldur's Gate 3, but if you've never played Dark Ages, it's like, oh man, that was such a good game.
You mean like remasters or remakes?
Oh, you'd have to like completely remake most of these because they're just like, yeah. But I mean, just it's the whole category of both remasters and remakes, and all of the stuff that I want to see added in, and I think we'll start to see this more with AI and stuff coming down the pipeline.
Mm-hmm.
So like eventually they'll be able to like recreate a whole bunch of different games.
Yeah. I really do hope that AI can be used for good in that respect. Personally, I like, just while we're on the subject before we move on, in terms of remasters, I would love to see a Chrono Trigger HD 2.5 remaster, sort of like what Octopath Traveler did. That would be legendary. Chrono Trigger, I played that game for the first time like a year or two ago.
Or
yeah.
How's this? How about they redo it, but like in full 3D, like just super elite graphics, and then they break it up into like 8 different pieces, and they release it every 2 to 3 years. They release a new version of it.
That would be
that continues the story.
That would be the most obnoxious crap ever. They could probably do something like that and more likely get away with it.
But
like
Cloud and Tifa deserve the best story. I'm not calling out it. I'm not calling out a particular game. I'm just saying, maybe that's
Cloud and Tifa as an example. Just hypothetically.
Yeah, it's just a hypothetical example of a game that somebody did a remake on and has been slowly drip feeding it to us for the past 5-6 years. It's still not done yet, but
it's so funny. Chrono Cross, I could see them doing something like that, and it may be working because of how messed up the story for that game is and how complex and rich the world is. But definitely not for Chrono Trigger. As Chrono Trigger's got a wonderful story, but it's not built for something like that. What else? I'd love to see a Parasite Eve remaster. Dino Crisis would be cool. Maybe the Siren games. I'd love to see those updated at some point, but I don't know. And of course, the Final Fantasy IX remake / remaster, whenever that gets revealed. Oh, and Final Fantasy Tactics. Yeah, I'd love to see that too. Yeah, those are just the ones that come to mind. Anyways, any thoughts on the Dead Rising stuff, guys? Let us know in the comment section below. Maybe there's a detail or two that I missed from the official announcement. I don't think there is, but let me know if there is. All right. Moving on to what about Fallout this time?
So tons of new stuff. So it turns out there's been some interviews about the show, and apparently they have managed to keep a large number of their sets and or have them moved because they moved filming from New York area to California area.
Okay.
So apparently there's a good number of sets they've been able to literally just pack up and move across the country, and those sets are up and running right now, and the writers have been writing since essentially the first week that the show went live. The writers have been in the writing room writing the second season, and they're getting close to finishing the second season, which means that they're starting to ramp up filming for the second season, like not ramp it up as in like it's already going, but like they're gonna get it ready here in the next, and they're probably gonna start filming stuff within the next month.
Nice.
So and they're gonna get it out way faster than. So the first season, it took like years, right? From being announced to people working on it to them filming it and stuff like that. I suspect there's a good chance that we're going to be watching the second season sometime early next year.
Yeah, that's right.
Like not early next year, like early summer next year. That's what I mean. So yeah, I think they're going to get out the next season probably within a year.
Yeah,
and that's just super exciting. That's super like wow, love it, absolutely love it,
dude.
So
I let them take all the time that they need, because man, the ending of the first season has set things up to be legendary for season 2, and I want to make sure that they get it right. Them moving to California, that's kind of appropriate if you get my drift.
Well, what's silly is that they're moving to California. So when the original filming and the show was based in California, when they were filming in New York area. Yeah. Now they've moved to California, and they're not filming scenes that are in California. They're now filming scenes that are based out of Nevada, Vegas. Mm-hmm. So that's I find that kind of hilarious. It's like, oh, okay, then you moved to California and you no longer did any filming for any of the California scenes. It's crazy. But it also explains why there was so much just vibrant like shrub growth and stuff like that we saw in the first one. So yeah, mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's gonna be interesting, and we have a confirmation we're going to be seeing a lot more of the main characters, and that repertoire of having having multiple characters that the story is following. That's going to be accelerated even more. There was lots of people who unfairly criticized the show for following just the female protagonist, but it's like no, it followed a lot of different characters.
Yeah,
and
the I would say was great.
Yeah, and she was great, and she really respects the fans, and you see this in her in any of the press stuff that she's doing now. She's very kind, she's very well spoken, and she is very, very positive on like, yes, I'm trying to make this, to respect the fans. It's like, yeah, that's an actual like important thing that they're doing. So, mm-hmm. So yeah, happy for that, excited for that. Think that that's actually probably the best thing that we can get moving forward. So yeah.
Was there anything else about video game adaptations?
Yeah. So the other thing too is that we're getting a mad rush for video game adaptations because of the popularity of this show.
Right.
And the show is so popular right now that even though The Boys is still like The Boys season finale is coming up. Sorry, not season finale, series finale.
Oh, really?
Which, yeah, I don't know who the H thought that was a good idea to like, I mean, like you don't want it to become, just like, you don't want it to become drug out and just like just a lot of like stupid, trying to make the characters last and live longer and all that kind of stuff. You run into problems with that. Yeah. But I think The Boys is a big enough genre, and there's enough material around that they could probably run that for 8 seasons.
Yeah. Well, it's not.
And I think that would be, mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that would be acceptable. But I don't know. They want to go with what they got, so I guess that's it. But that's the big show on TV right now. But the number 2 show on TV right now, and when I say TV, I mean like streaming,
Amazon,
is still Fallout.
Yeah,
it's still it is being watched by more and more new people all the time, mm-hmm. And it's still the number 2 streaming show concurrently right now, and that's great. But this also means that we're getting this deluge. We're going to get a deluge of people rushing to try and they're going to dig up everything they can. They're going to find, people are going to like try to get every show, everything running. I'm hearing some interesting ideas being spun out. I'm hearing some really interesting rumors starting up, and it's going to be crazy.
Oh, sure.
Like in all honesty, what we're going to see is going to be crazy, and not everything is going to be good. In fact, I think what we're going to get is a lot of bad stuff before we actually get the good stuff. So,
yeah.
yeah, it's gonna be really interesting to see what happens. It's gonna be interesting to see if certain iconic video games in the past get brand new TV makeovers and what that's gonna look like. Um, in Hollywood, the rumor is right now everybody is saying superheroes are out, adaptations are in.
Right. Well,
And
yes, that is the inevitable evolution that you and I have been discussing for the last several
mhm,
years. It's just a matter of when it's going to come. And it's looking like it's coming pretty close because at the moment, comic book adaptations aren't doing as well, certainly not as well as they were like 5 years ago. And if we could
mhm,
get like two or three more solid video game adaptations on TV and in the movies, then I think that will get the locomotion really going, and then we'll just see a deluge of really, really good stuff for the next decade or so, and that'll be great for everybody. Now, on that
yep.
note, as far as like what video game adaptations are coming and which ones will not be particularly good, I just brought up ones on my phone. I'm just curious. I just wanted to know which ones were in development. The next one that's coming out is one that I think is going to be a pretty safe bet is going to be crap, and that's Borderlands. Do I need to say any more?
Yeah, it's not gonna be good. It's looking like that's gonna bomb. So I am hoping that Borderlands absolutely bombs, like on an absolute catastrophic level.
Right.
I it's not because I'm not against Borderlands as a series, as a concept, and as the written work of people who I follow and people that I've admired in the past for their writing capability. It's because we need a significant warning to people to treat the source material correctly, and I don't think they're treating the source material correctly with this show. I don't think that they're doing what they need. I think that they have too many crazy cooks in the kitchen on that one, and I think it needs to be like it. I think that is going to fail, but it needs to fail hard so that the lessons are well learnt by the rest of the industry.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and then I think open-ended games like Borderlands, where it's like you do have a bit of a storyline, but that's not how people see it when they read it or go through it, or how some people experience it while they play it.
Right.
It's like, yeah, it's got good story beats, but it's not really an RPG.
It's kind of like Destiny back before it
Hmm.
became this big thing. I'm not saying that
Yeah,
so much about Borderlands 2, from which you told me it has a pretty good story, but I'm talking more like Borderlands 1 and 3, from what I understand. It's
yeah,
more about being in the world than it is about the actual story. So yeah.
exactly.
So
So, and I think that's what they're going to go for, and they're really going to like pounce on, and that kind of like, because the hacks, I'm sorry, I mean script writers in Hollywood, they look at this kind of stuff and they go, they like that kind of a thing where it's like they don't have to follow lore, they don't have to follow anything, they just get the general theme, and just like with Batman, what was the Batman with Batman Forever? Just like with Batman Forever, they get to tell the story that they want to tell, not the story that's been written by these. I mean, who even reads comic books, right? No, they don't
well,
care about that, and that's going to be the same thing we're going to have here. Is we have all these hacks. Sorry, I mean script writers, which are going to be like, I get to translate what this world appears to in my mind. It's like, no, you follow the lore.
okay, let me ask you a question though. Would you rather have a bad video game movie that follows the lore, or a really good video game movie that doesn't?
It depends on the series. It really does. It really depends on the individual story,
Right.
and what they're pulling from it. Like I said, if you make a movie that follows the lore, and the movie is what is that soccer game people play with the
FIFA.
remote control cars?
Rocket League.
Rocket League, right?
Yeah.
So if you got Rocket League and you're following the lore, or you're not following the lore, and it's a really good story, it's like, yeah, that makes sense because there's not a lot of lore there,
Mm.
right? But like if they were to try and like do Skyrim, or if they were to try and do like other games, it's like, nah, you gotta
Yeah,
like
that's right.
it's I don't want either one of those options. I want an option that follows the lore and makes sense, because you know,
It's part of the
Skyrim's kind of a
identity
beast
of the
because it's like,
property.
yeah, there's a lot of that. So again, it really does depend on the property. There's some properties where that's fine. It's fine. Like go nuts. And I think Lego did it really well. I played the
Mm,
Lego game. There was a Lego game that was a single player open world adventure kind of thing, and I played that with my young siblings at the time. It was a very old game. It's really actually quite old, um, but it was really solid. But from that foundation, they sort of built up what we got in the Lego movies, and the Lego movies were great. And I really do feel that they were an actual game adaptation, not strictly speaking as far as the lore of that old game that I used to play, but it is in fact the experience of the world as a whole,
mhm.
and they translated that really, really well. And they did a really good job on it. Lego has done a smashing good job on all the games that they've made, on all the digital
Oh
games
yeah.
they've made. They've really obviously pulled it out of the park. Hit it out of the park when it comes to actually like the actual Lego pieces and the lore. I think they are developing really smart, intelligent ways to tell story through their game. So yeah, I think that's pretty darn decent, and I think that's probably about the best that we could hope for in a lot of these cases.
Yeah, I agree with you. Just before we conclude, I'm just going to run down the list of things that we know are coming in terms of adaptations. Sonic the Hedgehog 3, I'm actually looking forward to that because I really, the first two Sonic the Hedgehog movies weren't great, but they were fun. They were nice movies to go and turn your brain off to and be entertained by. Minecraft, I forgot that they're making a movie for that. That's coming out April 4th of next year, side. I, d- I don't know what the hell they're going to manage to do with that, but I guess I'm just sort of. And it's weird because Minecraft is in like my top 10 favorite game. Go figure. The autist likes Minecraft, but you know,
Mm-hmm.
um, I'll see. I just don't really know what the hell they're going to do. Maybe it'll be something like the Lego movie where they craft a really good script and yeah, pay tribute to it. But I don't know. Five Nights at Freddy's 2, Super Mario Brothers movie 2, Legend of Zelda. Really looking forward to that, especially after seeing
Yeah,
Kingdom.
fingers crossed.
Yeah, after seeing Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, the same guy's directing the Legend of Zelda movie. Really excited. Ghost of Tsushima, that could be cool. Gears of War, well, we've been hearing about that for years. I'm not going to hold my breath. There's Return to Silent Hill. I don't know. Death Stranding, that might be interesting. Bioshock, I'm really interested to see how the hell they're going to handle that. It Takes Two. What else? Beyond Good and Evil. Yeah, right. Metal Gear
Yeah,
Solid.
that's going to be out in some time. I heard about that. The release date is planned for 2342.
Yeah, that's long after the world has been blown to bits by the I don't know the body snatchers. Splinter Cell. That's canceled. That's not happening. Oh, the Devil May Cry anime. I'm really looking forward to that. Fallout Season 2, Last of Us Season 2, Arcane Season 2. Holy crap, that's going to be amazing. It's too bad they're
Mm-hmm.
capping it at 2 seasons, which really sucks. But um, Nier Automata Season 2, looking forward to that. Yeah, lots of good stuff coming out. I suppose my big thing is I still like it is in development, but who the hell knows what's going on with it? The Metal Gear Solid movie. Just something, even if it's not a movie, do a TV show, which honestly at this point I really think that they should do. But yeah, it's looking good though. Just one or two of these has to be good, and then I think it'll really make executives around Hollywood perk their ears up and really give a lot of these properties the attention that they deserve. Outside of Metal Gear Solid, though, is there one? Well, maybe Mass Effect might be like the one that could really do good as an adaptation. Is there like what's one game adaptation that you really think would work well that hasn't been announced yet?
Uh, Probably if they could do it right, which I really doubt. I honestly really doubt it. But a Baldur's Gate show,
Yeah, yeah. Well,
a Baldur's Gate show, a Neverwinter Nights show,
we
like
kind of
the
quasi
original
got
one
that
or
though.
two.
We kind of quasi got something akin to that with the Dungeons and Dragons movie. But if they focus in on the Baldur's Gate,
No, because the like Dungeons and Dragons the movie was a it was a happy go lucky, like smiley, like cool thing. If you created a movie based off of Neverwinter
oh, I
Nights
see what you're
1,
saying. Okay, yeah.
you're gonna have a gritty Game of Thrones, you know, um, it's a mix of tragedy and just a thriller that ends in blood and gore. It's like that's the kind of thing that I think Dungeons and Dragons has to offer, because the story writing of Baldur's Gate 1, Baldur's Gate 2, and the writing of Baldur's Gate 3, all of these things are just, oh, and there goes the horn. Wow. But yeah, all of these things are really good, and I think that this is basically kind of like, oh, we need to have the door open for this kind of stuff. One of my most excited things that I'm excited for, in a far off fantiful kind of way, that I know I'm going to be disappointed with, maybe, is like I'm like right now I'm hoping for it to be good. I'm 100% positive that it's going to be just butchered because of government involvement, and that's going to be the Honkai Impact anime movie.
Yeah.
Because yeah, the the CCP has gotten official backing behind this thing, and it's like, right. So all their censor lords are going to go in and go, oh, you can't have this, oh, you can't have that, oh, no. Brownia and Seely are not, they are not a couple. That is unacceptable. They are both girls. That doesn't work. Like, that's absolutely unacceptable.
Yeah.
Girl liking another girl, that's ridiculous. Nobody's ever heard of that.
Yeah, from what I understand, that game and even Genshin Impact, they have pretty decent lore that can make for multimedia series. But yeah, stuff like that can get in the way.
Yeah.
For me, I know it would never happen, but I really think that the lore of the Xeno games, like Xenosaga or Xenoblade, could make for some really interesting multimedia experiences.
And Monster Hunter would be good. Yeah.
Well, they kind of already tried that and fucked it up, but they could, if they actually cared, do it better than what happened with the movie that came out recently with Mila Jovovich. But yeah, I think something like Xenosaga, they could really do something quite deep with that, kind of like The Expanse, but with a lot more quirkiness, if that can be believed. Yeah, but it's not a popular enough series for something like that to ever happen, but hey, I can dream. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, that does it for this episode of Maximum News. Thank you so much for joining us and listening to us talk about games. Make sure you hit that like button, because when you do that, it helps out not only this video, it helps out all the other videos on the Triple S League channel. Leave a comment if you have any thoughts on any or all the things that Saib and I talked about this episode. Saib, anything you want to plug before we're done?
No, that's it for now. We're working on more stuff, and we've got crazy times ahead of us. So bear with us, please. We thank you for your support while we figure stuff out.
Nice. And you guys can find me on all the regular forms of social media, just at Max Derrat. I have a new video out on my channel talking about the original Full Metal Alchemist anime, where I reveal a whole bunch of undiscovered secrets from that anime. And I also have another video coming out, I believe, on Sunday, and it's going to be on, I'll just say it's going to be related to Metal Gear. I won't say exactly what it is, so I'll just keep it a surprise. So go tune into that. It will be a good video. All right, that's it. We'll see you next week. Until then, stay yellow.
Goodbye.